Shalom and welcome to Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible. Today we're looking at Numbers chapter 30. There are 16 verses, and this chapter is about the maid's vow, a wife's vow, or a widow, or her that is divorced. So, pretty much women's vows or a woman's vow. This is a topic that is not without controversy. So, let's get right into it. Let's jump into this controversy. Verse 1, we have a significant difference. It says, talking about of the tribes. Okay, is that a big enough difference? It says concerning. Moses spoke to the heads of the tribes of the children of Israel versus he spoke concerning the children of Israel. Okay, so yeah, this is a significant difference because in the Septuagint, Moses is speaking to them. He's speaking to these heads of the tribes of the children of Israel. On the other hand, in the Masoretic, it sounds more like Moses is speaking to the heads of the tribes of the children of Israel concerning the children of Israel. He's coming to them with a concern about your people. That's what it's saying. And that's not what it's saying in the Septuagint. It's saying he's speaking to the heads of the tribes. Period. That's all you need to know. Moving on to verse 2, a big difference here. So that was a significant difference in verse 1. Verse 2, we have a BD, big diff. It says, or swear an oath, whatever man, actually, it's even a man's vow, not just a woman's vow. Okay. Whatever man shall vow a vow to Yah, or swear an oath, or bind himself with an obligation upon his soul, he shall not break his word. All that shall come out of his mouth, he shall do. So it's like when someone makes a promise. If you promise something, you better do it. It's not something you take lightly or that you will then break. It's like my word is my bond kind of thing. The Masoretic says it a little bit differently. It says, if a man vow a vow unto Yah or swear an oath to bind his soul, so notice his soul instead of himself, with a bond. So we can see right there. That's the difference here. He with a bond instead of an obligation upon his soul. I think it is a similar expression that is being used here. I'm not going to say it's widely different, but it is big. There is a big difference here because he's binding his soul instead of an obligation upon his soul. He shall not break his word, so that's the same. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. Okay, you know what? I don't know why I said this was a big difference. He shall not break his word. Okay. He shall not break his word. It's also there as well. Or swear an oath. If he swears an oath to bind his soul. Okay, right. I understand why it's a big difference. So the big difference here, upon reading it, upon further review, I understand why I said this is a big difference. The reason why I noted this is because these are two different things. In the Septuagint, it's one long thought. It's saying, if you bind yourself with an obligation upon your soul, you shall not break your word. So this is an obligation upon your soul. But in the Masoretic, it's saying, if you swear an oath to bind his soul with a bond, he shall not break his word. Okay, I'm not sure. Trying to make sense of this. All right, maybe it isn't that big of a difference. I'll just say it's a significant difference. I was thinking maybe there are two different things, two different vows being made. If you vow to Yah or swear an oath. So yeah, these are two different things: a vow or swearing an oath. Okay, yeah, I see it now. Sorry, I see it now. In the Septuagint, it's saying bind himself with an obligation upon his soul. So these are three things. Number one is a vow. Number two is an oath. Number three is binding yourself with an obligation upon your soul. That's a third thing. Whereas in the Masoretic, there's only two: a vow, swearing an oath, to bind yourself with a bond. That's one and the same. It's not three different things. So that's the big difference. That's why I will maintain big diff is maintained. Okay. Verse three, continuous difference. A CD, you see an obligation uh, expressed here versus a bond. Okay. Verse 4, we have an omission in verse 4, and all the obligations with which she has bound her soul, talking about a young woman who lives in her father's house, shall remain to her. So this is personal, and it's not only public and applicable to others in the way that they are aware, in the way that they are aware of this and will hold her accountable. So it is personal. Um, so that was completely omitted from the Masoretic. So that is a big difference. It is a significant omission there. Um, yeah. So that's an important to note in verse 4. Verse 5, straitly forbid. Actually, you know what? I'm going to read that over. I just want to get really deep into this. If a woman shall vow to Yah or bind herself with an obligation, so we heard about that. She bound to her soul, her father should hold his peace, then her vow shall stand. All the obligations with which she has bound her soul shall remain to her. Okay. So she has to do it. And it's personal. She bound it to her soul. It's personal, not only public, and not only applicable to others in the way that they are aware of what she did, and they will hold her accountable. Ultimately, it's part of the vow process. People will hear this covenant or this promise you make, and they're going to say, "Okay, were you honest about it? Did you keep it? Were you able to do it?" On the other hand, the Masoretic is saying a woman will vow a vow to Yah. Her father hear her vow and her bond wherewith she hath bound her soul. Her father shall hold his peace. Okay, so it's and at her then all her vows shall stand. Um, and with every bond wherewith she hath bound her soul shall stand. Okay, okay. Looks like the Masoretic actually includes it, except it doesn't say shall remain with her. All the obligations. Okay, every bond. So it's saying bond instead of obligations with which she has bound her soul. So it does say that shall remain to her. So shall stand instead of shall remain to her. I don't know. Is that really an omission then? I guess it's not an omission anymore. I'll just say different. I'll just say diff. It's not really an omission. Uh, so it's a difference. It's expressed differently. I'll just say versus Masoretic because whatever's written there. It's not exactly the same, but it's not wildly different. Okay. Okay. Continuing on. I want to turn on a light, but it's okay. Verse 5, straitly forbid versus disallow. So if you don't allow your daughter, you're saying, okay, you're not allowed. These are the rules. But if you straitly forbid, that's showing the father is more assertive. These are hard and fast rules. They're not flexible. These are not the rules that you can just bend to your whim and and pressure the father. Uh, it says contracted upon her soul. She has contracted upon her soul versus bound her soul. So this is a contract. It's not just binding her soul in this covenant or vow, I should say, not covenant. Verse 6, in respect of the obligations versus wherewith. Uh, okay, that's expressed differently. I think respect it sounds more official. It sounds more legal. I guess legalese. Contracted upon her soul versus bound on her soul again. Verse 6, in respect of versus wherewith. I think I just looked at that. Verse 7, be binding versus shall stand. Um, verse 8, hold her. Uh, where is that? hold her guiltless. Okay. Yah shall hold her guiltless versus and Yah shall forgive her. Okay, so it's expressed differently. One, Yah will not impute any guilt on her versus Yah will forgive her. So she's saying that in effect she is guilty, but I'm going to forgive her. So no, Yah will not hold her guiltless. Um, oh, I'm sorry. did I express that wrong? It says, if her husband forbid her in the day in which he should hear her, none of her vows or obligations which she has contracted upon her soul shall stand, because her husband has disallowed her, and Yah shall hold her guiltless. Okay, so she'll be innocent in effect. Yeah, okay. She will not have guilt. So it's not her fault, meaning she did not make a mistake. She did not sin. So why would Yah forgive her for something she did not sin? Uh, doesn't make sense. Okay. So that is, I would say, that is a significant difference now that I really think about it. Verse 9, put away, her that is put away versus divorced. I believe it's pretty similar. I'm not going to harp on that. Whatsoever she shall bind upon her soul versus uh, shall stand to her. Oh, no, it says there, she shall bind upon her soul, shall stand to her versus wherewith they have bound their souls shall stand against her. So, not every vow is negative. It won't stand against her like it's a bad thing. No, there could be a good vow, actually. Depends on what the vow is. And notice it's her soul, not their souls. Um, whatever she binds on her soul. So this is giving women more rights in effect. God, Yah, is giving women more respect and more rights uh, in this particular situation of the vows that a woman makes. It's really interesting. You can see Yah really gives them the opportunity to, have more. There's more righteousness. It's a fair judgment. Verse 11, the Septuagint uses the expression "stand against her," versus here, perhaps the implication is these bonds were ones that one would want to escape responsibility from. So notice that it stand against her. Uh, it does say that here too in verse 9 to be just to be fair, however, not in the context of this verse in verse 11. However, the Masoretic does say her soul shall stand. She bound her soul shall stand. So no, in this case, it's saying uh, her vow shall stand. All the obligations which she contracted shall stand against her. So it could be good, could be bad, depends on what the vow is. There's a lot of variables here. Verse 12. I'm going to read this verse and then reflect upon it. If her husband shall utterly cancel the vow in the day in which he shall hear it, none of the things which shall proceed out of her lips in her vows and in the obligations contracted upon her soul shall stand to her. Her husband has canceled them, and Yah shall hold her guiltless, so she'll be innocent. Let me just plug it in. It's a bit better. So, my reflection for this particular verse is the husband truly is a wife's covering, a protection, and he has authority over her in this instance, not in the way that people think that he's a ruler over her and she just has to submit to everything. No, that's what it is. He's there to defend her, to protect her from paying this penalty of perhaps a vow that she made, wherein she realizes, this is what I did here. This vow was actually a bad idea. Can you bail me out? Essentially. And the husband is saying, yes, I will. I'll do that. I'll cancel it because uh, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you. I'm here to protect you. I'm here to give my life for you if it needs to come to that. So he has the authority to protect her. the authority over her given by Yah in the way to protect her, not to rule over her and, be like a dictator. It's not like that. It's a loving relationship, a consensual, symbiotic relationship. And he's there to protect her from all harm, even the harm that she would do to herself, self-inflicted harm. In this instance, maybe she didn't realize it at the time. Maybe she was young and foolish. I don't know. Maybe she matured. Maybe she could see the bigger picture and realize, these vows were actually not for my good. And the husband can see that, or, the truth is revealed later on that this isn't a good idea. I can cancel this for you as your husband. And she has that option. So that's a great ruling, a great law. Verse 13, continuous difference. He shall confirm it to her, her husband, or her husband shall cancel it. So every vow, the husband can make that executive decision, being her husband, being her protection, versus he may establish it. Oh, what? Or a husband may make it void. So we can see the Masoretic, the husband figure sounds more like a dictator. uh, I'll do this. I'm going to force this on you. No, that's not what's happening here. She's the one making the decisions in terms of these vows. This is a woman's right. God is giving a woman the right to make this vow, whatever this oath is. The husband is merely confirming, okay, can I look it over? All right, I'll confirm it. Make sure this is for your good and not for your harm. That's what a good husband would do, at least. A husband who is guided by the spirit of Yah. Um, okay, let me just turn that off. Okay, so yeah, notice here the husband is not a dictator. He's not an authoritarian. He is a collaborator and a protector. They're a team. That's the way Yah intended it to be, the relationship between husband and wife. They are united as a team, looking out for the greater good of the family unit, whether it's spouse to spouse or whether it's for their children, for their household. So we're looking now at verse 14. The obligations which she has bound upon herself versus which are upon her. So these are self imposed, self inflicted. Okay, notice that. So it sounds like at least in the Septuagint, that she is the one who has that right. She made those decisions to make the vow, make this obligation, and she put it upon herself, whether it's good or bad. We don't really know. It depends, again, on what the vow is. What did she oblige herself to do, to meet? It'd be interesting to look into this topic a bit more and see what are the kind of vows that women would make. Are these simply marital vows or something more trivial, like they'll promise to do something? I'm not sure what it is, whether it's a task or fulfill some kind of agreement, whether it's working labor or something like that. I'm not sure. Big difference in verse 15. Then he shall bear his iniquity if her husband cancel them after the day in which he heard them. So he has to cancel it immediately. Versus he shall bear her iniquity. No, it's not her iniquity. It's actually his. It was his iniquity because by not canceling it, not canceling this vow in accordance to the guidelines, according to the time period prescribed, it was then his fault. There is a deadline that the husband has to meet. So if the deadline is not met and it needs to be canceled in the very same day he heard them, he can't just simply sleep on it and let another day pass. It has to be decided the day of. And again, the Bible defines a day as beginning in the evening, so at sunset, which at the time of this filming is now, up to the following day, before sunset the following day. So it is technically the same day, sunset to sunset. So if I hear of a vow at this moment at sunset and then we sleep on it and we wake up the following day and I say, okay, this is what I've decided. This is not good for you. That is still technically the same day. So when I said sleep on it, I mean sleep too long on it. You're not going to let it fester for too long. Okay, so let another day pass. So yeah, it seems to be implied. Oh, let me just pause. It's a little too noisy up here. Okay, so it seems to be implied just by reading the verse. You can see that there is a time frame which a decision must be made. So that's all I have for you today. It's a very interesting topic. Uh, Before I finish up, let me just look up ancient vows. Maybe see what is an example of an ancient vow. I know there's a popular one where uh, a woman, I should say not a woman, it was a priest. I think he said, "If I vow whatever passes through the door, I will burn." Offer to Yah. So a lot of people use that one, but let's look for women's vows. I'm going to look for that. Okay. So this website is saying there's a difference between an oath and a vow. I'm just going to read it. Not that I agree with it, but it's something to think about. They're saying that vows refer to an object. So if somebody forbids you to do something to themselves, for example, if I want to drink alcohol or not drink alcohol, that's a vow. However, if I vow to do some or vows to do something, but the vow refers to the thing, an oath, on the other hand, refers to the person. So a person swears an oath to perform an action or swear that something is true. So the oath pertains to the person speaking. So you would then take an oath uh, to say that. Although there is a Nazarite vow, though, so that is interesting. Uh, to perform an action or swear that something is true. So making an oath, I oath, I pledge that this is true. Following statement. So I mean, um, I don't know if this is scriptural, but this is just worldly kind of understanding about this topic. But I feel like in Numbers 30 seems to use both interchangeably when it talks about vows, and I think it does say oath in the same chapter. If I would just do a little quick word search, yeah. So it's talking about vows. It's talking about oaths. It's talking about an obligation upon his soul. So these are three things. There's a vow. Uh, so perhaps a Nazarite vow would be an example. Swearing an oath is something else, and then binding yourself with an obligation upon your soul. So these are three very serious uh, conditions that you could place yourself upon, and when you break them, that's serious. But if you do meet them, that's also going to be met with positive consequences, also known as blessings. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you very much for your time. May Yah bless you and make your way prosperous. Till next time, you've been watching Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible. Shalom and peace be upon you.